Stand up from a chair. Do it now. Or remember the last time you did it, 5 seconds ago probably. When you stood up, something dramatic happened in your circulatory system. Gravity pulled about half a litre of your blood, roughly 500 milliliters, out of your upper body and into your legs within about 3 seconds. Here is what that blood shift would do if your body did nothing about it. With no correction at all, no reflex, no compensation, the pressure feeding your brain would fall by 30 to 40%, and you would faint within seconds. That is the open loop case. The system switched off. It is not what happens. What actually happens is that the drop is caught and corrected before it ever gets that far. You didn't faint. You didn't even notice. The reason you didn't is that inside your aorta and the major arteries in your neck, there are pressure sensors that detected the drop within milliseconds. Those sensors triggered a response that propagated through your brainstem and out to 3 different actuators: your heart, your blood vessels, your kidneys, each operating on a different time scale, all working together to hold your blood pressure inside a narrow band that you were never aware of. This is a closed-loop control system built into your body, running continuously. You experience it as standing up without falling over. You have a number called blood pressure. Probably know it's around 120/80. You probably do not know that the number you have is the result of an active, ongoing engineering problem your body is solving every second of your life. Here's the problem. Your circulatory system is a closed loop driven by a pump. The pressure in that loop at any moment depends on 3 things: how hard the pump is pumping, cardiac output, how constricted the pipes are, vascular resistance, and how much fluid is in the loop, blood volume. All 3 of these change constantly. Your heart rate changes when you exercise, when you're scared, when you stand up. Your vessels constrict when you're cold, dilate when you're hot. Your blood volume changes throughout the day as you drink water and lose it through sweat and urination. If your body just let those 3 variables fluctuate freely, your blood pressure would swing wildly. Sometimes it would be high enough to damage capillaries. Sometimes it would be low enough that your brain stopped getting oxygen. Instead, your blood pressure stays within about 10% of its baseline most of the time, across all the conditions of normal life. That stability is not passive. It is the output of an active control system that detects deviations, computes a response, and applies corrections through multiple actuators. Engineers call this closed-loop feedback control. It is the same architecture that holds a cruise control speed on a car, regulates the temperature in a building, or keeps a drone hovering in wind. Your body solved this problem hundreds of millions of years before humans had the math for it. The sensor in this system is a class of cells called baroreceptors. They are located in 2 main places: the aortic arch, just above your heart, and the carotid sinus in your neck, where the carotid artery branches. The way they work is mechanical. Baroreceptors are stretch-sensitive nerve endings embedded in the walls of these arteries. When the artery stretches, the nerve endings stretch with it. When they stretch, they fire. The firing rate is not binary, it is graded. At low pressure, the artery is less stretched, and the baroreceptors fire slowly, maybe a few action potentials per second. At normal pressure, they fire faster, tens of action potentials per second. At high pressure, they fire faster still. This means the baroreceptor signal carries continuous information about arterial pressure, not a threshold, a number. The brain doesn't get told pressure is high or pressure is low. It gets told the actual pressure, encoded as the firing rate of these neurons. This is the same principle as a strain gauge in an engineering system. You don't need a complicated sensor. You need a mechanical element that deforms predictably under load and a way to read that deformation. The baroreceptor is a strain gauge made of cell membrane. There are roughly several hundred baroreceptor endings in each major site. The brain integrates the firing rates across all of them, which makes the signal both more accurate, averaging reduces noise, and more robust. Losing a few endings doesn't break the sensor. The baroreceptor signal travels along two cranial nerves, the glossopharyngeal from the carotid sinus, the vagus from the aortic arch, to a small region in the brainstem called the nucleus tractus solitarius, the NTS. The NTS is the controller in this system. It receives the baroreceptor signal, compares it against an internal reference, what blood pressure should be, and computes an error. Then it sends signals out to the actuators that will correct the error. A note on that word, reference, or setpoint, the term we'll use for the rest of this episode. In a thermostat, the setpoint is a literal number you dial in. In your body, there is no single neuron holding a target pressure. The physiological setpoint is an emergent property, the equilibrium that results from the combined characteristics of the sensors, the controller, and the actuators all interacting. When this episode says setpoint, it means that equilibrium operating point described in the language of control engineering. The engineering vocabulary is exact about the system's behavior. It is not a claim that there is a dial. This is the architecture of every feedback controller ever built. Sensor, controller, error signal, actuator. The NTS happens to be made of neurons rather than silicon, but the structure is exactly what an engineer would draw. The NTS doesn't act alone. It projects to two adjacent regions in the medulla, the rostral and caudal ventrolateral medulla, RVLM and CVLM. The RVLM is what actually drives sympathetic outflow to the heart and vessels. The CVLM's job is to inhibit the RVLM, and the wiring between them is worth getting right because it's a little counterintuitive. When pressure rises, baroreceptors fire harder, the NTS is more strongly activated, and the NTS excites the CVLM. The activated CVLM then inhibits the RVLM, turning sympathetic outflow down. At the same time, the NTS increases vagal outflow to the heart. The result, high pressure, leads to less sympathetic drive and more vagal braking, so the heart slows and the vessels relax. When pressure falls, the chain runs in reverse, less NTS activity, less CVLM inhibition, so the RVLM is released and sympathetic outflow rises. The controller works by an inhibitory relay, not a direct on switch, but the input-output behavior is exactly that of a negative feedback controller. There is no conscious involvement in any of this. You are not aware of your NTS firing. You are not aware of your sympathetic outflow changing. The control loop runs entirely below the level of awareness while you focus on whatever you happen to be doing. Reading a sentence, walking across a room, standing up from a chair. It is the most heavily used controller in your body. It has been running continuously since before you were born. Here is where the engineering gets genuinely interesting. The baroreflex doesn't have one actuator, it has three, and each one operates at a different timescale. The first actuator is heart rate. When the NTS detects low pressure, it reduces vagal outflow and increases sympathetic outflow to the heart, which speeds it up. A faster heart pumps more blood per minute, which raises pressure. The response time is on the order of 1 to a few seconds, about as fast as biology can plausibly run a control loop. The second actuator is vascular tone. The same sympathetic outflow that speeds the heart also reaches the smooth muscle in the walls of your arteries and arterioles. When sympathetic outflow rises, those muscles contract, the vessels narrow, and the resistance to flow goes up, which raises pressure. The response time is similar, a few seconds. These two together are the fast loop. Within 5 to 10 seconds of a pressure drop, both heart rate and vessel tone have responded, and most of the pressure recovery has happened. The third actuator is the kidney. specifically the kidney's ability to control sodium excretion and therefore blood volume. This is a much slower mechanism, not because the kidney is sluggish, but because changing blood volume takes time even once the kidney starts. The kidney begins adjusting sodium and water excretion within minutes of a pressure change. But the consequence of that adjustment, a meaningful shift in total blood volume and therefore in pressure, accumulates over hours to days. When pressure is sustained high, the kidney excretes more sodium and water, gradually reducing blood volume, gradually reducing pressure. When pressure is sustained low, it holds on to sodium and water, gradually raising volume. The action starts fast, the effect arrives slow. This is not how the kidney responds to standing up. Standing up doesn't change blood pressure for long enough to engage the kidney loop. The kidney is for sustained changes, chronic hydration state, long-term physiological demands, slow drift in any of the system's parameters. So the baroreflex is a multi-rate control system. Fast actuators handle disturbances on the timescale of seconds. A slow actuator handles drift on the timescale of hours. Each actuator is optimized for its own timescale. The heart can't change blood volume, and the kidney can't change heart rate. They are deliberately separated, and the controller coordinates between them. This is a textbook engineering pattern. Multi-rate controllers are how cruise control on a car combines fast throttle response with slow, predictive learning. Your body has been doing this for hundreds of millions of years. So return to the cold open, you stand up. What actually happens second by second? At time 0, you transition from horizontal to vertical. Gravity immediately pulls blood toward your legs. Within 2 to 3 seconds, about 500 ml of blood pools in your lower body. The pressure in your upper body drops, including the pressure feeding your brain. The baroreceptors in your aortic arch and carotid sinus, which had been firing at their baseline rate, drop their firing rate in response to the reduced stretch. This drop happens within milliseconds. The NTS detects the change. Within roughly 1 to 2 seconds, it has reduced vagal outflow and increased sympathetic outflow. Your heart rate rises, your vessels constrict. The pressure that was dropping starts recovering. By somewhere between 30 seconds and a minute, you are within a few mmHg of your baseline blood pressure, with a slightly elevated heart rate to compensate for the reduced blood volume in your upper body. Most healthy people transiently drop their systolic blood pressure by about 10 to 20 mmHg when standing. But the recovery is fast enough and complete enough that they have no symptoms. You can do this hundreds of times a day, every day of your life, without thinking about it. If you watched a high-resolution recording of your own blood pressure during this transition, you would see the disturbance and the recovery as clearly as you can see the cruise control on a car correct for a hill. Same shape of curve, same controller architecture, same engineering. The control loop doesn't always work this well. There is a condition called orthostatic hypertension, also called postural hypertension, where the pressure drop on standing is too large, the recovery is too slow, or both. The clinical definition is a sustained drop of at least 20 mmHg in systolic pressure, or 10 mmHg in diastolic pressure within 3 minutes of standing. The symptoms are familiar: lightheadedness, dizziness, sometimes fainting when standing up suddenly. The underlying engineering is straightforward. The controller's gain has dropped, or its sensors have degraded, or its actuators are not responding as quickly. The causes are several. Aging reduces baroreceptor sensitivity. Some medications, especially blood pressure medications and certain antidepressants, blunt the sympathetic response. Dehydration lowers blood volume, leaving less margin. Diabetes can damage the autonomic nerves carrying the signals. Long bed rest can decondition the entire reflex. The treatment, when there's no underlying disease to fix, is to give the loop more time. Stand up slowly. Sit on the edge of the bed before getting up. Drink more water. These work because they reduce the disturbance the loop has to handle. This is what it looks like when a control loop is degraded but not destroyed. The system still works, it just doesn't reject disturbances as fast as it used to. The reflex is slow, not broken. There is a different failure mode that looks nothing like postural hypertension. In this case, the loop works fine, but the set point it's holding has drifted up over time. This is chronic hypertension, sustained blood pressure higher than the normal range over years or decades without acute symptoms. The mechanism is not one thing, it is a collection of slow changes that compound. Baroreceptors can reset. Over weeks of elevated pressure, they begin to treat the higher pressure as the new normal and stop trying to push it back down. Sympathetic tone can become chronically elevated. Vessel walls stiffen with age and remodel under sustained higher load, raising the baseline resistance. The kidney's pressure natriuresis curve can shift, holding more sodium at any given pressure than it used to. The result is that the control loop is still operating, still holding blood pressure within a narrow band. But the band is centered on a higher number than it should be. The system is doing its job. The reference value has drifted. This is harder to treat than postural hypertension because the loop isn't broken. There's nothing to fix in the way a faulty sensor or a damaged actuator would be fixed. The medications used for chronic hypertension work by changing the system parameters, reducing cardiac output, reducing vascular resistance, reducing blood volume, blocking the renin-angiotensin pathway that influences the kidney's set point. They are tools that move the operating point back toward a healthier range, given a controller that's stable but mistuned. About 1.4 billion adults worldwide live with chronic hypertension. For most, it's silent until something downstream, or a stroke, a heart attack, kidney damage, reveals that the pressure has been too high for too long. The control loop did its job, the set point was wrong. So here is what your body has been doing for every second of your life without your awareness. Inside the walls of your aorta and the major arteries in your neck, there are pressure sensors that fire at a rate proportional to arterial stretch, encoding your blood pressure as a continuous neural signal. In your brainstem, a circuit centered on the nucleus tractus solitarius integrates this signal, compares it against an internal reference, and computes an error. 3 actuators, your heart, your blood vessels, your kidneys, receive the controller's output, each operating on its own timescale, each correcting different categories of disturbance. You experience this as standing up without falling over, walking from a warm room into the cold, running for a bus, sitting back down, the 1,000 transitions a day that should have caused your blood pressure to swing wildly and didn't. This is a closed-loop feedback control system with multi-rate actuators, distributed sensors, and continuous reference tracking packed into the cardiovascular system you've had since before you were born and running every moment since. You just had to know how to look.